You'll probably start seeing my face all over the place when you're online.
I'll be screenshotting it and sending it.
That'd be awesome.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us. My name's Josh Berg. I'm your host today, and this is the BLIP podcast, where we help agents build successful agencies. Pretty excited today. I've got my friend Cameron Brown on. He's joining me from Insurance Brokers of America. Cameron's right here in Arizona with me, not too far. And we're going to get into it now. Thanks for joining me, Cameron.
Hey, thanks, Josh. It's Insurance Brokers of Arizona.
Did I say America
You
again?
did.
For everyone out there of Arizona. All right. So, Insurance Brokers of Arizona. Cameron's got kind of a unique, I guess it's a niche. Would you call it a niche?
It's a pretty large center of influence. So yeah.
So Cameron has a pretty large group of referrers, and those referrers are captive agents. And so there's a lot of us who own agencies that have some of those. Cameron has quite a few. So I wanted to have him on and just talk with him about how'd you get here? What do you do? What does this look like? All the ins and outs of it. So hopefully it'll be helpful for everyone. So for starters, Cameron, why don't you just give us a brief overview of kind of how you got into insurance?
Okay, sure. It's kind of a funny story because growing up, my dad was always a regional salesman. He always hopped around job to job. He always started out at zero with commissions every month. It's his type of job. He'd build up a region and then they'd get rid of him because they could find somebody cheaper to come in. So as a kid growing up, you see that and, you become aware of what's going on financially with the time of the month it is too.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be like my dad. I wanted to have something more stable. So I actually went to school for engineering.
Okay.
And I'm like, that's a pretty stable job until 9/11 hit and I lost my engineering job and they sent the engineering department overseas.
Yeah. Wow.
So at that point I called up my old man and I'm like, hey Dad, I'm ready.
And show me the ropes.
Yep. I just told him, I don't want to do it the way you've done it. So I want to do it the smart way. And he goes, Cameron, go into insurance. He explained to me the renewals and all that. So I went and got licensed and pounded a yellow page book back when they still had yellow pages and started calling agencies, asking if they're hiring. Before the end of the day, I had an interview scheduled for the next day. Went to the interview and that evening I had the job offer and then I started the following Monday.
Nice. So you were working for another independent agent?
It was a captive agency.
It was a captive. Okay.
Yeah. Because at the time I didn't know much about the independent side. So I'm like, well, I've got a 3-year plan. I'm going to go work for a couple of the big dogs.
Yep.
And open up my own shop in 3 years.
Sweet. So when you did eventually open up your own shop, is the Insurance Brokers of Arizona, is this the first agency you've owned?
Yes.
Cool. How long have you owned it?
I worked for 3 years in the captive side as an employee for 3 different agencies, and then I went independent in 2005. So nice. We're over 14 years into it now.
Nice. You're seasoned, man. You're a vet.
I don't know. Some days I wonder.
So right now, like we talked about earlier, your sphere of people that send you business are captives. How many would you say right now estimate are sending you clients?
Right now, we have a total of 92 of them that are on our referral list in our sources and everything for our AMS. Okay. Out of those, 60 of them or so are probably regular referrals that send one here or there throughout the year. And then we probably got about 30 of them that are actually regular every month, multiple referrals.
Nice. Man, that's a lot, man. That is a lot. I bet that's a lot to manage. We'll talk about it. So how do you, let me ask, is this something that just came about or is this something that you were intentional about?
It kind of, the opportunity landed in my lap and I just kind of went with it.
Okay.
Those 3 years that I worked for the captive side for those agencies, two of the agents that I worked for when I went independent, I still had a relationship with.
Okay.
So they're like, yeah, we'll float you one here or there to kind of help you out. So, I had those two that started out back in '05 with me, and, I was supplementing that with internet leads back then.
Yep.
By the time 2007 hit, 2 years into it, I had already grown that network to where I didn't need the internet leads anymore.
And so
So,
how do you start that process of building a relationship like with a newer agent? So you had about two. How did
mhm.
you get to your first 5 or 10?
Sure. It's I never solicited per se, like cold calling them, just cold walking in, or sending them letters or mailers or anything.
Okay.
They get that all the time. Uh,
Right.
my network shows me what they receive all the time, or they'll tell me about a call or something like that. I see what agents are trying to do. It's not going to work that way.
Yeah.
Somehow you need to befriend one and get close to one, whether it's through a networking group or a chamber, or honestly, just pick up the phone, call the captive agent down the street and say, hey, I'm so and so down the street. I'd like to get together with lunch for you just to pick your brain and see how you guys are doing.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, that agent's gonna be open to it.
Yeah.
Um, and then from there, just start asking about them, find out more about their business and them personally, and just kind of grow that relationship. And naturally, if they like you, they're going to end up starting to refer you business.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So, you get one or two like that, and then you can kind of grow it or scale it the way I did. Um,
Okay.
what
So
I
how,
did,
yeah, go for it. Please.
yeah,
Please.
what I did was baseball was big back here because the Diamondbacks, started in '98, so it was a pretty
Yeah.
new baseball team.
Okay.
And so I ended up getting a table at TGI Fridays front row, which is out in the left field bleachers.
Yep.
It's the
Yep.
restaurant. You just get one of their patio tables there. So the first year, like '06, I got a tabletop. It was 5 seats. So it was me plus the two that I knew. And then I'm like, hey, bring two of your captive buddies, you know.
Nice.
So there was the five of us and watching the game, and it's beer or drinks and food on me. And that was in '06. And in '07, I think I had two or three of those tables. And then in '08, I ended up moving out to one of the suites that were kind of out by the foul poles and everything. And
Yeah.
then we just slowly progressed to larger suites, more expensive suites. And the last year that I did it, we were in the owner's suite behind home plate. That's what we had.
Dang.
So, every year it just grew. And I just kept saying, hey, bring some of your captive friends that I don't know. And it just got to be an event that everybody enjoyed and just really loved.
Yeah.
And you tout it that it's a thank you for all of you guys, plus you get to network with other captives like yourself,
Yeah.
plus
And
there's free,
so,
free booze and free drinks and
heck yeah.
food.
Insurance agents very rarely turn down free
Right,
booze.
right.
So it sounded like when you were talking about that you no longer do that.
I do not, because it actually got to be so large, and honestly it was so successful it became a negative because it was so fun. Everybody all of a sudden wanted to start bringing their spouses, bringing their friends,
Yeah.
bringing everybody. So it just ended up being this huge party that everybody was just wanting to invite everybody they knew to. So
Hmm.
I ended up cutting that out. Probably 2012 or 13 or something like that,
Yeah.
right
Did
around
you,
there. And the last one we probably had 60 people at, in a suite.
dang. What did that cost you?
It started out, obviously, the TGI Fridays front row. That first,
Sure.
each table is like, I can't remember exactly, but it was like $400, and then half of that went towards your tab,
Yeah.
for each
Yeah.
table. And then the suites start out at like $3,000 plus your food and beverage, which you can easily just double that amount, for the food and beverage cost. I
Yeah.
think the last year that I did it, it cost me about right around 10 or 12 grand, but that was for
And
60
is
people.
and that's per game?
Yeah. I just do it once a year, one game once a
Once a
year.
year?
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
One game once a year.
Nice. Wow. So basically you're doing that and you're saying, hey, bring some of your captive buddies that, I don't know and whatever, and like bring them here and let's all hang out, whatever. So that's kind
Oh
of how
yeah.
you started growing it.
Yep. That's how I started growing it. Plus that network is a very small,
Yep.
cohesive group, as many of us know, because a lot of us have come from that network. One person is doing something or referring to somebody, they know about it because they're in meetings all the time with each other. They're asking each other what's working. They call each other, hey, where are you sending this kind of stuff to? So
Right.
it naturally grew just by word of mouth and those events.
Yep. Nice. And so what do you, I guess, when you're talking with a newer referral source from like the captive world, what are you asking for?
All I do is I tell them what we can bring to the table. We've got, 40 carriers. We can do basically whatever you can't do. We will make you look really good so you can keep the other business. We will never cross sell.
Okay.
And you will always know where that client's at if you ever wanted to bring it back at a renewal.
Nice.
Which
got it.
We independents know that 9 times out of 10, it's going to be really difficult for them to bring it back.
Right. Unless the client wants to pay more. Yeah.
Exactly. On price, at least. They might go back for the loyalty to the brand, but on price, it's going to be tough.
And so what do you do when one of those clients that has been referred to you says, hey, my auto renewal is coming up. I've got my home with you. Can you quote it for me?
Yep. I've never done it. It's a tough conversation to have. It's a tough conversation to have. First off, I'll say, you came to us, from agent XYZ. Do you still have your other policies there? And they'll be like, yeah, it's there. Obviously, if it's not there, great, go at it, But, if it is there, I'm like, hey, look, that's a great agency. They've got a great policy. You're better off to stay there. And then if they keep coming at it, then I'll be like, look, I'm going to be honest with you. I go, I've got a business relationship with them. And the fact is, I promise them that I will not take other business away from them. That's the way I choose to do my business, and I have to stand by that.
Yep.
Most times, the client's like, okay, I understand. I get it. Every once in a while, you get some guy that just, no, it's my choice, where I go. And I'm like, you're right, it is. And it's also my choice of who we write,
Right.
So, occasionally it can get pretty hairy, but most of the time people understand it and they applaud your ethics and morals and all that. So
yeah. So your promise to these captives is like, look, happy to take whatever you send us and promise you we will not touch any of the other business that client might have with you. What if they have what if you are referred the home and the client has auto, but not with that captive agent that sent it to you?
Fair game. Yep. Fair game. Yep.
Cool.
Yep. Fair game. Because a lot of times they'll get a call in, on a lead or something, and they just can't help them, or they're not competitive or whatever reason.
Right.
They'll forward them to us, saying, hey, call this guy because he might be able to help you. I know I can't. And, fair game. So
for sure. And that's so much of a nicer rejection from the captive, instead of saying, we can't help you. Like,
right.
Hey, we can't help you, but try these people. They're awesome, whatever. Yeah,
exactly.
So when I think about that kind of business, the type of business that I would expect you'd be getting, I would think that it would be, claims riddled and short-term policies, that sort of thing. What's your experience with it?
You're right. You do get a lot of that. Okay. Our agency as a whole, as far as the cancellations and all of that, retention issues, 90-something% of our non-standard business that we've written is on paid in full or EFT.
Okay.
That's the only way we do it. And if they're coming from those large name captive agencies, they're used to that kind of stuff too, because they really pound for that. So you don't have to worry about the monthly cash payments or anything like that so much. So, the non-standard business that we do write, some of the claims written stuff, the DUIs, what have you, it does go on there, but it sticks on the books because we get them paid in full or EFT.
Yeah.
That is part of the reason too why we have so many carriers though, because I had to have enough specialty carriers or non-standard carriers to be able to place pretty much anything that comes our way.
Yep.
Last thing I want to do is, oh, I don't have a place for that, and then they go find another independent broker, for something. So
most people think, at least I should say, I think when you talk about that sort of relationship with a captive, that we're talking strictly auto home. Do you also get business referrals?
Oh, we get a ton of business, and a lot of the personalized business that they send, a lot of it's not necessarily non-standard. I mean, some of these captives, their underwriting so strict that we can still fit a lot of it in our preferred markets.
Yeah.
So it ends up being really good business for us. But what I really like is they're extremely strict on the commercial side. So we have gotten some nice accounts, on the commercial side regularly.
Nice.
So those are easy for us. It's difficult for them. It's just not in their wheelhouse.
Do you ever kick anything back? Like, do you split commissions or give any sort of spiff or anything like to the agent or their staff or anything like that?
I have never done any of that. It was a pretty firm stance that I decided to take early on. For one, I didn't want the headache of the accounting.
Oh, dude,
but for two, there's not enough to go around for us. I didn't want to deal with chargebacks. Okay, I gave them a commission, I got charged back. But the way I spin it to them is, what I bring to the table. I do not want you to lose your captive contract if I send you a spiff or something like that, because the captive contracts don't allow for it. So if they get caught or Big Brother caught wind of it, they could lose that contract in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
It's not worth it for them. I have lost a couple of referral sources because I wouldn't give them a big kickback. They thought they had a large account in their pocket that they couldn't write, but they thought they sent it to us. But so I've lost a couple of them over it, but I think we're doing okay.
Yeah. So do you have a process or some sort of routine that you try to follow with each agent that's actively sending you referrals? Like, do you stop by their office? Do you take them out to lunch? Do you get them together still in any sort of capacity?
Yeah, I always, early on, I was going out every quarter to just shake hands, meet with them, let them know what we have been doing lately, meeting their staff, letting everybody get to know me. I'd bring in the donuts or coffee or bagels or, and then every time I'd go out, if I was out for a day, I'd always choose one agency that I was going to be around their area around lunchtime, and I'd always bring in lunch for that whole team.
Nice.
So I would do that, or if we'd get a couple of really good accounts, I would just call out an agency, be like, hey, look, how about I stop by with lunch one day? For most part, that was pretty much it. I would just do that quarterly, and then after a few years, I would change it to every 6 months, and then it became annually because I didn't need to be going in anymore. They didn't want me in there. They knew where I was. They trusted us. The relationship was already built,
We all have the reps that try to stop by every month.
Right.
Like, what are you doing?
Right.
I don't want to. Don't check the box. Don't use me to check your box.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where it's at. And I rarely go out to see any of them anymore. They just, our relationship and they know where we're at. They know what we do.
Yeah.
So
do you have you ever run into the captive agents getting any sort of I want to use the term guff because I can't think of a better term. That's such a lame word. Do you ever have the captives ever got any sort of guff from their carrier,
from their headquarters,
in sending you stuff?
Yeah, they there's been a couple of them where Big Brother, he watches everything they do. Those captives are under a microscope, under Big Brother's thumb. So there was a couple of agents that got their hands slapped, but it was for referring out other types of businesses like body shops or mechanics, stuff like that. And then it caused Big Brother to really dive into everything that they had, and our agency's name came up with a few of them.
Got it.
They got their hands slapped and were told not to be doing it. So whenever Big Brother does that, we see a different way that we're receiving the leads. We'll
Got it.
get, either it'll be faxed to us, or it'll
Yeah.
be a text, to my cell phone,
Got it. Got it.
or it'll be from their personal cell phone to mine, or their personal email to mine, something like that. So that's not on the company's information.
Yeah. So even though they might get their hand slapped, they're still valuing that relationship enough that they're continuing to send the business, because them sending it to you is still not outside of their contract. It's just
Yeah. Yeah. I
their
mean,
company's
absolutely. It's
just
a
saying.
value to them because they're able to keep a lot more business if they've got a partner like us. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if they just send the customer out, oh yeah, they're going to lose every line of business every time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
For
I
sure.
mean, it's definitely a value for them and beneficial.
Yeah. So where do you do you have goals surrounding the partnerships you have? Are you trying to get every captive in the state? Are you trying to get to a certain amount? Are you trying to get a certain amount of referrals? Like, any goals surrounding this sort of?
No, no, never really goals with that. It's funny because I have goals with every other aspect of my business,
Yeah.
but with them, there was one point where we had 25% of a certain network's captive agents.
Oh,
We had
wow.
25% in the state, which
Nice.
was pretty big. You
That's
know,
nice, man. Yeah. Anything you wish you would have done differently from the process you've gone through to starting to where you are today? Like,
yeah, if anybody's starting this, I would say to never ever get into the habit of not being able to talk to the client or the prospect. There
oh,
are
I see.
some captives that want to keep that client and contact information so close. They'll send you the information to quote it. They want the quote back. They want to present it, and they'll tell you to bind it. It's just,
Yeah.
there was a couple agencies early on that I got into that with, just so we could write the business, and it just
Yep.
became a nightmare down the road. And
Yeah.
it just set us up to have some very uncomfortable calls with that agency, to
Yeah.
put the kibosh on that.
Have you ever? I would think that in doing that, there's got to be some issue with the carriers too that you're putting the client with. I mean, if you're not technically the one presenting, and
Oh, I'm sure. Oh, it's a
yeah,
nightmare all over
yeah,
everywhere.
yeah, yeah.
I was young doing it, and you do what you gotta do to put food on the table when you're starting out, and it just kind of snowballed, and then there was a point where I just had to draw the line in the sand. No, we can't do that anymore.
That's
So
awesome.
we lost a couple of agencies over that because they just wanted to hold it close. But
Yeah,
you got to figure out what path you want and what your stance is going to be, and just stick with it.
yeah. It's. I mean, it seems like with that, that definitely seems like a good way to process it. Especially because those sort of agents, they're not valuing that relationship enough. They're not trusting you enough to
Right.
really do the right thing, what you said you're going to do. And so it's
Yep.
like, how
Exactly.
how good and how long is that relationship going to go anyway?
Exactly. Yep.
Um, any advice you'd give to a new independent agent that's wanting to go that route, aside from, you know, making sure what we just talked about, that you're
Sure.
actually the one talking to the client and processing that stuff?
Yeah, I would say you've got to make sure that your entire team is on board with those relationships, and that you make it crystal clear that there's going to be consequences if they try to cross sell or they
Yeah.
try to do this or that.
Yeah.
Um, it was part of my interview and hiring process with every team member that I've ever brought on board, telling them about it and saying flat out, no questions. If you cross sell, accidental or not, that was your job. Done.
Yeah.
you
Yep.
know. So there's been two instances where they kind of crossed the line. They didn't cross sell, but they crossed the line,
Got
to
it.
where I've had to walk employees out for that.
Man, that's
Um,
got to be hard, right?
Dude, it's tough. You get a call from one of your big referral sources, and they tell you how a conversation went or something, or they forward you an email that a prospect sent them. It just kind of puts you in a bad spot.
Yeah. How
But
much more does that solidify that relationship
it
with you and that whole group, though? I mean, word will
absolutely.
spread, and it's like they're serious about this.
Yep, absolutely. It did for sure. There was one, for instance, that called me, told me about a phone conversation with one of my team members. And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" And they're like, "No, no." I go, "Give me 10 minutes. I'll call you back." They're like,
Yeah.
"Okay." called the team member in my office, and they already knew. They knew what they did.
Dude.
And they basically walked themselves out. So I called the referral source back, and I'm like, hey, it's done, taken care of. And I'm like, what happened? I'm like, they're no longer here anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and they were flabbergasted. You know,
Yeah.
I'm like, no. I go, I value you guys and the whole network. I go, they know coming on board what's going to happen. So it definitely solidifies it every single time. And we see an influx of new sources right after that happens because they start talking, you know?
Yeah. Nice. That's great, man. Hey, if people have more questions, how can they find you? How can they reach out to you?
Yeah, reach out to me. You guys can email me at Cameron@iboaz.com or message me on Facebook or even give me a shout. You know, I'm available. I'll help anybody however I can.
It's not Cameron at IBOUSA. Well, dude, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I think this is great info. I know there's a lot of agents who do this on a small level. We have some agents that send us business like this. But I know that scaling this way would be great for a lot of people. So it's solid info. Thank you.
Perfect. No,
Cameron,
thanks for having me.
Cameron Brown with the Insurance Brokers of Arizona. Thanks again, man. Appreciate it.
Okay. Thanks, Josh. Have a good one, man.